So, as just mentioned, welcome. We are now recording. Welcome to the 21st Century Leadership Workshop. We're up to just over 20 people, and I think we've got about 9 or 10 countries or territories on the call so far, which is absolutely great. So I appreciate your time. I'm just clicking more people in as we go. I'm going to start off with launching straight into it and see how we get on. So for those who don't know us or me, or Lynn and I and the company, just real quick, this is where we are based. So I'm sat here in France. Now we're right on the German border, about 30 minutes south of Luxembourg, due east of Paris and due south of Amsterdam, pretty much. Our offices are in Luxembourg, just there, just outside the Schengen. We are in a place called Remechen. We haven't been there for a while because, as most of us are working from home at the moment, this is our renovation cottage in the office. So we're in France, office in Luxembourg, and we have office over in the UK as well. And we cover the UK business and international business from Luxembourg and from our UK division as well. We work with clients in 34 countries, not all at the same time, but overall, we're very fortunate to have a range of international clients from USA, Canada, South Africa, all over Europe, any English-speaking territory or English-speaking client, I should say. We work via Zoom with workshops and business coaching, executive coaching programs. So that's where we are, what we do, and how we do it. We've been doing this now for best part of 20 years. So I've got to love it. I am living the dream. I don't have a job. I do this. My boss, my partner, my wife, Lynn, is on the call. Some people know Lynn, and she may chip in and put me straight if I say anything untoward. So we're a family firm based down here in France. So to kick off, why is leadership, why 21st century leadership? Why is it so important? And just some numbers to sort of reel off to you, these based on contemporary surveys and things like that from people like Gallup. There we go. And 85% of people, employees, are not engaged. When I say not engaged, I mean they're not actively, positively supporting their employer or the job or their business. They're passive. They're passively engaged in what they're doing. 85% of people, it has been shown, are not really actively engaged with the company that employs them and pays them. A certain number are considering leaving, 81% considering leaving at any one time, probably the 81 or the 85% that aren't engaged. But encouragingly, those companies where people are more highly engaged make 21% more profit than those where they aren't, if that makes sense. So engagement of employees and team, it pays dividends. So it's not just a case of, be good leaders just for the sake of it, because it's the right thing to do, which should be enough, to be fair. But 21% increase in profitability over a 10-year span, this has been shown. So good leadership, and we're going to know some of the principles of it, it pays dividends in the P&L and in the dividend box as well. 400% growth in thriving cultures. These companies where there is a thriving culture grow 4 times as fast as those that don't. And again, this is where it shows up in the P&L. If you've got shareholders or stakeholders, you're the owner yourself and you're into growth, culture and leadership really pays dividends. And again, doing what I do, I see this live in a variety of organizations, from the very big corporations that we work with all the way across to the smaller independent startups, entrepreneurial SME type businesses. And this is why it's so important, I think, for all of us, that if we want to achieve profitability and growth, then leadership's a key fundamental of the strategy for us. And 37% of people in organizations prioritize recognition over pay. And it's a really interesting one from a leadership point of view, because when you speak to people about how they reward their people, they talk about pay is probably one of the first things they do. I had a conversation with somebody in the UK, doesn't matter who they are, they're not on the call, I'm not going to mention any names. And I was saying to her, so how do you motivate your people? He said, well, we pay them every month, that should be enough. Well, you know what? It's not enough, is it? It wasn't. I was trained in the 1980s as a young manager in these old style industrial age, what was called leadership. It didn't work then. It certainly doesn't work now. But the challenge is that for a lot of us, we have been managed and led or trained and developed by people who came from that era. And some people think that's the way that leadership just works. We pay people, we shout at them, they do a good job. If they don't like it, they can go somewhere else. Now that it doesn't work, it's not appropriate. But oh, there's Martin in. But if we want to get our businesses running to be competitive, to attract the best people, to retain the best people, and deliver excellent customer service, all of us, from the smallest company to the largest, need to look at and review our leadership style, and for our teams, our managers, and ourselves as well. So that's some of the frightening statistics, if you like, that are out there in business world. We were in the UK last weekend, just gone, and we were over at the Cotswolds. We are grandparents now, Lynn and I, and we were fortunate. We did a workshop in London on the Thursday, and we went to the Cotswolds over the weekend. It was fabulous, and we spent the weekend with Richard and Polly and a grandson, Arthur. It was fantastic. We went to, as you can see on the photograph here, this is Lynn, my boss, my partner, and my wife, at Blenheim Palace in the Cotswolds. We did lots of visiting around, restaurants and everything like that. Quick tip, if you are going to the Cotswolds at Blenheim Palace, I typed in Blenheim into the GPS system, and of course Blenheim is not where the palace is, it's in a village called Woodstock. So just a little tip for you there. But anyway, so we were visiting these hotels, restaurants, all this sort of thing, and the thing that we found was that regularly in a lot of these venues, the people who were serving in restaurants or bars or whatever it was were literally, and it was a friend of mine, colleague of mine called Dirk Sanden. Some people on the call know Dirk from Luxembourg, and he said, I've been having a chat with him about this, and he said, well, this is like the Working Dead, and they're like zombies. These were young people, middle-aged people as well, not just youngsters, but they wanted to serve us, but they were not engaged with us at all. Quick question from Mark here. Yeah, I'll send the stats across they're from Gallup, they're from a variety of sources. I'll publish the root sources of the stats for you, so you can do the background research. Absolutely, I'll put that in the notes for you. But when we're being served by these people, there was no engagement, no please, no thank you, no energy, no eye contact. It was as if like we're in like a zombie movie, and it was the products were okay, or the food was okay, or whatever it was. Blenheim Palace is fabulous, but it could have been so much better if the people who were delivering the service, the products, were more engaging. Now, for me, that just says, well, it's not them. I don't believe it's a generational thing. Before all the Generation X's and the boomers kick off now with me and go, oh, of course, it's the youngsters of today. They're all on their smartphones and they can't listen, they can't do that. I don't buy that. I see a lot of young people in business, entrepreneurs doing amazing work. It's not an age thing, it's a leadership thing. And maybe they've been led by people of a certain generation, who knows, but it's not an individual thing. We can't blame our people for how they behave if we don't like it. It's for us to look at how do we train them, how to recruit and select, and how do we lead them. We went, for example, to one store. It was we were in Bourton on the Water, and we went to one store, and it was a little pastry shop. I think it was called the Cornish Bakery, I think it was. Dropped in there for a coffee, Lynn and I, on the first day there, and a young person behind the counter. Absolutely brilliant, amazing, conversational, chatty, engaged with all the customers, really busy, doing a great job, vibrant, full energy, just great. And that person was clearly, had the personality for it, but also been trained, allowed to express herself in the job which she was doing, and was being led differently than the people in the other organizations. So you've got to watch out for this. You've got the Working Dead working in your organization, dealing with your customers and your clients. It's going to show up in terms of your customer service levels, retention levels, testimonials, in terms of your profitability and your growth, and what people like me say about your organization, or anybody says about your organization, on things like TripAdvisor, or when they're in the pub talking, or on the plane or on the train talking about business, whatever it is. They're going to talk to you about your levels of customer service, either in glowing terms or in not so glowing terms. It's how we lead people, how we train and recruit them. This is the power of these issues here. So there are three, in my experience, three key areas to look at. We're going to look at self-leadership first. If we want to be a better leader, we have to be able to lead ourselves. Now, this is Elon Musk, as you can see. Now, he runs, obviously, SpaceX and Tesla, and he doesn't run out of time. I see people that are so busy running a small or SME business, maybe doing a couple of 100,000, 500,000 up to 1 million or something like that. They are the busiest people in the world, absolutely busiest people in the world. Elon Musk runs SpaceX and Tesla. He's the richest guy in the world, and he runs those businesses with the same 24 hours that we've all got. So what's he doing different? Does he use his excuses? I'm too busy, can't make it, can't do this, and I can't do that. Absolutely not. What he does, it's quite a famous tip that he does. He breaks his working day down into 5-minute slots, and then he will allocate a project or a time or a conversation or something to 5-minute slots, all in the morning. Afternoons, he walks around the factory. In the evening, it's family time. That's how he manages his business. Now, to do that, he's got to build a team of people. And one of the challenges, certainly in the SME sector or the small and medium-sized sector, is that businesses never get past what I call critical mass. They never get past a critical point where they've got enough growth and money and cash flow to build team, to hire, support people. So look at our company. We're not a very big company. There's 5 of us in our business, and 2 of those are dogs. So there's Lynn, there's John, there's me, the family business. I have a job spec. I have a job description, things I'm allowed to do, things I'm not allowed to do. My job spec basically says I'm allowed to do coaching, training, sales. That's about it. Those are my 3 core things. Everything else that goes around that, I don't do it. Lynn does all the operations work, so diaries and scheduling and invoicing, all the hard work. Lynn does all the hard work. I just talk a lot. That's my job. That's Lynn's job. And John's job is looking after IT and web and marketing and tech and all that side of it that goes on, the website, the events page, all this sort of thing, and the social media. So between the 3 of us, we are absolutely very, very busy, but we only run our business 3 days a week. So it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we run our business. And that's about it. Maybe on Thursday, we may have a couple of meetings. We might do a workshop. We might do traveling. We might take the weekend and do some renovation on the property as well, which I know Richard Canton and I were speaking earlier on about lockdowns being great for time. But I'm very, very precious on my time, 3 days a week. Anything that I can't do in that, I delegate it. I send it out to somebody else to do it. And this is the way to get some time back. A job description, a default diary, get a calendar of what you're doing on what day, schedule your time, because most of us, most people in business are too busy, too stressed, unproductive, and not having a great time. Now, if you're doing that, if you're like that, guess what your team's going to be like? Your team reflects you. If I see a team that's stressed and panicked, I know what the leadership's like. If I see a business leader that is always late, disorganized, stressed, cancelling appointments, shifting things around, everything's sort of chaos, I know exactly what I'm going to find in that organization. It's going to be the same thing, because the team follow us, the team follow you, the team follow the leadership we give them. So it's critically important to get yourselves as leaders organized and in the best condition, best state you can be. But get past critical mass as well. Growth is a fundamental aspect of this. If you find yourself just below critical mass, where you're doing 90 hours a week and you can't break out of that cycle, you can't afford help, you've got to grow through. You've got to break through that critical mass point. And even if you're employed in an organization, get yourself a PA, get a VA, get some help and get some support, and sort of trade through it. It's really, really important. So in terms of self-leadership, watch out for stress. If I did a quick poll on here, I think everybody would say they're pretty stressed. We've all been through 18 months of lockdown. It's affected our jobs, our businesses, our clients. And it's been tough. It's affected all of us without exception. It's been stressful. And there's a good stress level. We all need a little bit of stress. We all need something to keep us motivated, keep us excited about, doing things, getting up in the morning and doing what we want to do. But we can have then also something that's called negative stress or pressure stress. And this is where pressure stress we can do short term. We can do pressure stress short term for a week or a month, a project, that's okay. Then we have overload stress. This is where it's not okay. Now, for many people, they're operating in overload stress all the time. And if a leader is in overload stress all the time, guess what it's going to do to their team? They're going to be in overload stress all the time because they don't know how to operate. They don't know how to work, not being led properly, and they follow their leader. They literally do. We went to an organization in Luxembourg, did an event, pre-lockdown now, and we'd setting up everything in this room, and the socket that I had for my laptop wouldn't fit the output port on the display system. And we were there about 7:30 in the morning, nice and early to get set up. And this guy walked past, he'd got a polo shirt and jeans on, he's just in sneakers walking around. And he stuck his head round. He said, do you fancy a coffee? I said, that'd be great. So Lynn and I are there. He made a couple of coffees for us, came in. He said, are you getting on? Is everything okay? I said, well, I can't get this thing, this US, whatever, to fit this. I need an adapter or something. He said, no worries, leave it with me. Went away, came back 10 minutes later with an adapter thing, got it all set up. We tested it out and off we went. Anyway, started the workshop, and he came in halfway. This guy just walked in halfway through and just said, hi guys, how's it going? I said, going really well, thank you. And I said, well, that was, I made us coffee this morning. And it was really nice of him to help us out, very relaxed and very, in tune with everything. He was the CEO. He was the CEO of this organization of hundreds of people, and he was relaxed, helpful, friendly, engaging, empathetic. And guess what his team were like? Guess what his team were like to us as well? Because he was in good stress, or maybe occasional pressure stress. CEOs do a lot of work. Good stress, pressure stress. His team were the same. They were productive, profitable, friendly, engaging, good people, working hard, talented, enjoying themselves, great team spirit. And guess where it came from? It came from him, because he was out of this stress level. Now, how it shows up in terms of performance is this. If you imagine stress along the bottom and performance up the side here, and this is the bell curve. When you're under good stress, positive pressure, excitement, enthusiasm in your business, your stress level's up a little bit in a good way, it's okay. And your performance is up to 2/3 way up the curve. Life's good, you're okay, we can all deal with that. That's healthy stress, you're okay there. Now, it gives us a level of performance. That's the thing to bear in mind. It gives us a level of performance. Now, when there's a pressure is on month end, if you're an accountant, in the UK, January, you're flat out, it's tax return time. If you're doing a certain project or you've got an RFP to respond to, whatever it is, pressure comes on from time to, and you have to deal with it. And that's for maybe a week or a couple of weeks or a month. It's sort of okay. Now, if I put pressure on you when you're in good stress, put that pressure on, your performance goes up. You go up the curve. You can see that pressure goes up the curve. Now, if you're in overload stress, the other side of the curve, it means that you've got too much stress, too much panic, too much weight upon you, if you like. The interesting thing here, of course, on the curve, your performance level is the same as good stress. Performance is the same level. Now, if you're in overload stress and I put pressure on you, apply stress to you, you're going to crash and burn. You are going to go straight down, because it's the straw that breaks the donkey's back. So you've got to get yourselves over the other side of the curve. So how do you do that? Well, you start managing your time, you start managing your diary, you get yourself back on track. And because if you're doing that and you're operating in overload stress, I guarantee your team are as well. And then they're going to be the working dead. They're going to be the zombies walking around, not engaged, don't want to be there, clocking out at 5 o'clock, going home, whatever it is. They're not going to be very engaging for people. And it comes from us as leaders. So we've got to get you to de-stress, get that stress back over into good stress, or even just a bit of pressure stress. But it's called self-care. How do you look after yourself as a leader first to get yourself into the best condition to lead those people around you? One of the things I learned this when I was working at the airport. I used to work at Heathrow. I was running a division of Aer Lingus. I ran Heathrow, Gatwick and Stansted airports. And we would do a health survey study of the health and well-being of our team. And we had about 500 people working over 3 airports. And we did a comparison between London Heathrow and London Gatwick. And we had people driving lorries, trucks, Bowsers, all around the airport, servicing the aircraft when they landed. What we found was the people at Gatwick we had a high level of staff turnover, we had a higher level of absenteeism, we had a higher level of stress reported, we had a higher level of illness and everything at Gatwick than we did at Heathrow. When we looked into it, the reason was Gatwick is a 24-hour airport. Heathrow isn't. Heathrow shuts operations at 11, opens at 6 because it's near the city. Gatwick's not. Gatwick's 24/7. So at Gatwick, we have people on shift work, night shift, triple shift, 4 days on, 4 days off, 4 on, 3 off, 5 and 2, all these bizarre shift patterns to match the aircraft arrivals. Heathrow, we had people on shifts, but they tended to be twilights, because we shut at 11, we opened at 6. So people tended to have the night off. And people who were working nights were much more unhealthy than those who were working days or more gentle shifts. Sleep is a key indicator of stress. Now, the thing is, what comes first? Does stress come first or sleep come first? Work on your sleep patterns, your circadian rhythms. If you get quality sleep, you're going to feel much better. You can then manage your emotions. You can be calmer. The stress comes down. Things look better. You can engage with people better. So sleep is a key driver of how to get yourself into this best condition. I need 7 hours a night. I know I do. If I don't get 7 hours a night, I'm not able to function doing what I'm doing. I need to be on my best game all the time. But that's the same for for all of us. We all be on our best game. But if we're leading people, if we as leaders are tired and stressed and drinking caffeine to wake up and alcohol to calm down, not sleeping well, working weekends, working evenings, guess what the team's going to do? They're going to follow us. It's not a good leadership principle. We've got to lead our people in the manner and method which we want them to copy us. So we've got to put ourselves into our own best condition and look after ourselves. Health and nutrition and sleep patterns is absolutely critical to getting the best from ourselves as leaders or people under your care. And what you can do, this is something I'll send this over with the PowerPoint. If you want a copy, just drop me an email. I'll send it over. Is you can assess your health and well-being, if you like, on this little clock chart. And you can rate your work, your health, your income, your happiness, your performance, and score yourself on it and see how you get on. And then you can do something corrective about it to make sure. You may find your income's not where you want it to be, or relationships are struggling. I guarantee if you're stressed, working long hours, working weekends, working at whatever it is, your relationships are struggling. Even if you don't think they are, they just are. So really watch out for that. And we don't want our teams to do that. Therefore, we've got to step into that space first and look after ourselves. So look after yourself first. Number 2, tactical leadership. So you've got the team, you've got the business running. How do you build your tactics in terms of leadership? Well, the key thing here really is to be aware that, imagine your business is a pitch, a sports pitch, football pitch or anything like that. When your team goes onto the pitch, how do you manage and control them? You want them to have freedom. Freedom's a key driver from a leadership perspective. No one wants to be micromanaged. I guarantee it. They need to have freedom, but freedom within constraints. So the pitch defines the constraints that we're working with. The vision of the organization. What's your vision for the organization? What are you shooting for? What are the objectives? What's the targets? What's the future look like? Because if people want to stay with you, what they need is a brightness of future. They want to know where we're going. From a leadership perspective, if people don't know where they're going or why they're doing it, how do they follow you? How can they do it? So vision is key. What's the vision for your organization? 3 years, 5 years out. What's the mission of the organization? How are we going to do it? We've got people on here in a variety of businesses, from martial arts business to software businesses to a specialist. I was going to say shop fitting, but Daniel's going to shoot me down. Architectural ceilings, I'm going to say, over in Canada as well. It doesn't matter what you're in, but what is the mission? How are you going to achieve this vision? Is through excellence of something. It's through standards of customer service and customer care, through provision of quality. It's the mission, the standards that you're going to hold yourself to in order to bring this vision to life. How are you going to do this? What's the mission? Culture. Do you have a culture statement in your organization? Do you have a rules of the game? How do you treat each other? Is it okay for people to talk about each other in negative terms at the coffee machine every day? No, of course it's not. Is success a principle? Is honesty, integrity a principle and part of the culture? Absolutely it is. Now, we know this intuitively. One of the challenges for entrepreneurs is we know this because that's how we operate. Of course we do, and managers as well. But if we don't express it to the team, they don't know the same thing. There's a different experience of culture. So the culture has to be defined and documented and brought into the conversation with the team. We have clients, for example, who have a reference point of culture or rules of the game. And every time they have a team meeting, they have one of these points of culture is the conversation part for the day. What have we done this week to support this point of, one of the rules of the game? What have we done to support and encourage this? What's been working well? What do we need to improve? They bring that into the conversation. And then the final part is obviously legal framework, compliance. Catriona will be very pleased I said compliance, because you've got to obviously be with the legal framework, contracts of employment, contracts of sale. You've got to be hugely compliant. But within that framework, the people, your employees, your team can go and do what they like. You've got to give them the freedom to express themselves. As the young lady in the Cornish bakery did, there was no script that she was using, no scripts at all. And she was just engaging. She was fun, great service, great products on time, it's accurate, but she was making it up as she went along to a certain extent. Within that framework, she was ad-libbing to a degree. It was great, a big difference. Whereas if these things aren't clear, two things will happen. Either people make it up themselves, do what they think is the right thing to do, which may or may not be, but not your vision, not your culture, not your mission. They'll do something that's not quite appropriate. Or they do what the zombies do and they just shut down, they do nothing. There's no knowing. They're so scared of making a mistake because of the way that some leaders operate. They doing nothing is a great option because then you can't get it wrong. So they shut down. So this opens up the possibility for people to express themselves. Our job, your job maybe, is to be you're the coach. You're on the outside of the pitch. You're observing, holding accountable. Ball goes out of play. Game starts or stops again and restarts. If there's a foul committed, yellow card goes up and the team can give each other yellow cards as well. I have clients where a manufacturing client where they have their culture all laid out like this. If anybody does anything that's not part of the culture or the mission or the legal, they carry cards around. They can give each other a yellow card or a red card. If it's a health and safety infringement, for example, red card, immediately remove them from the factory floor. If it's an infringement of language or behavior, it can be a yellow card. And the person who's running the machine can give a yellow card to the CEO, and both ways around. It absolutely works. Accountability to these is a key driver as well. So tactical leadership is about the vision, the mission, the culture, the legal, and the freedom that we give people as well as we go along. Should we be liked or respected as leaders? This is one of the things I get asked by new managers and leaders coming through. Yeah, we want to be liked. Yes, it's a bonus, but actually respect is the key. Because as a leader, and a lot of the martial artists will know this, when you're training people in your leadership position, sometimes your students don't like you. Sometimes my clients don't like me because I beat them up with a baseball bat over Zoom. I hold them accountable to their promises, accountable to their goals and objectives. There is a huge amount of mutual respect. However, likability can fluctuate. I remember when I was running a wood mill down in Bristol. I'd be about 28, 30 years old, I guess, a young manager. And my chairman took me to one side and he said, look, he said, you'll know when you've arrived, when you're running this organization, when you're a leader, you'll know you've arrived because I'll start writing about you in the back of the toilet stalls in the restroom. And he was right. But I think we always had respect. Likability fluctuates. So go for respect, but respect goes both ways. It's respect from the team. You earn that respect from the team, but you also give respect back. Likability comes and goes, but we're not paid to be liked as leaders. One of these myths, I see a lot of this out on social media about empathetic leadership and this sort of thing, which is absolutely critical. I'm going to come on to that. Empathetic leadership, absolutely, but not, we're not in a kibbutz, we're in a business to get results. So respect, likability, yes, but respect is a real key driver for people. There's a book here, a pamphlet, and you can't quite see it, I don't think, on there, but it's called Of Clouds and Clocks, and it's by Karl Popper, who I think was an Austrian philosopher. And the reason for this storyboard is because what he said people are, we treat people as clocks. We treat them like engineering timepieces. We think they are predictable. We can program them. We set them running. They keep on going, doing the same thing. They don't break down. They just keep on going. People are like machines. And a lot of leadership over the last 25 years, we treat people like machines as well. We're very mechanistic in our approach to people in terms of the way we pay them, reward them, give them freedom, micromanage them. And a lot of leaders, a lot of managers think that people are, yeah, you do this, obviously they're going to get on with it. And it doesn't work that way, because in the words of Karl Popper, people aren't clocks, they are clouds. Clouds are random, they're fleeting, they're unpredictable. We don't know what we're going to get. We have to be very much more aware. You look at a cloud once, and then it's gone, or it's changed, or it's moved. It's different. And this is a real challenge for people in leadership, because people are different. If you're running a team at the moment, I guarantee the people in your team are different, personality-wise, ability-wise, performance-wise. They're different. And the one way of leading and managing people doesn't apply. It doesn't work with everybody. We have to be empathetic to them. This is where empathy comes in. One of the old phrases that I hear a lot, going out of vogue now, hopefully, is it should treat other people as you want to be treated. Do unto others as you want to be done unto yourself. Not true. We should treat other people as they want to be treated, as they need to be treated. And as we're now looking for being more elegant in our leadership and recruitment and training and development, we've got to be more inclusive and not just have people in a very narrow band, but attract, manage, retain, and lead people with all sorts, all types of requirements. So we treat people as they need to be treated, not as we want to be treated. That's a key distinction. So we use emotional intelligence. I saw a paper yesterday, doing some research for this, actually looking through it, an organization in the UK, and they are bringing people into the organization now, because in the UK, a lot of vacancies are out there, and they're bringing people in that are neurodiverse. And what they mean by that, it would be people that maybe traditionally wouldn't have easily fitted into the organization because of whatever conditional situation they were in. And what they found was, from a leadership perspective, if they adapted the working environment, for example, somebody who maybe has a condition where they can't tolerate loud noise and bright lights. They may be on the, I'm not medically qualified to comment on this, but that they were saying they're on the autistic spectrum. And if they adapted their working style, so they were in a quiet space with controllable lighting, it was calmer and not as noisy, not as, couldn't be interrupted as much. These people are absolutely brilliant. Their output, their productivity, their creativity, they were absolute genius. But we have to be empathetic to people's needs. That's probably a bit of a slightly sort of extreme case, but it goes down to personality and engagement, how we treat people, how we're flexible with people. Empathy and sympathy are two things. Sympathy is put your arm around somebody, metaphorically, and you sort of, collude with them. Oh, that's very bad. Here's a cup of tea. Very sorry for you. That's not empathy. Empathy is understanding from a leadership perspective, and then adapting. And making sure that everybody in your team has leadership that's appropriate to them. This is where empathy and EQ comes from in the leadership space. I don't see this happening a lot, unfortunately, in some organizations. People we work with, of course, because they're attracted to what we do. By definition, they tend to be ahead of the curve. But I do see this in a variety of organizations where you see how people are treated by their leaders and by their managers. And it is unbelievable, incredible. It wouldn't have worked back in the 1980s, let alone in the 2020s now. So it's respect we want to earn. Likability is a bit of a bonus. That's okay. But we do have to have this emotional intelligence. We treat people as they need to be treated. They are clouds, not clocks. Flexibility is the key, and emotional intelligence will be one of the key drivers in this. How do you understand people's personalities? Just before we started this, Katrina, like I see the thumbs up over there. Before we started this, Layla, who jumped on the call, every client I work with, we do a personality profile. This is for me, not for them. It's for me to understand their personality. How do they show up in the world, in their work, in their business? What's their stress response going to be? That enables me to be a better coach for them to understand how they're going to operate. It's really interesting, the different dynamic between the different personalities of the people that we work with. All the people we work with are brilliant, absolutely, but for different reasons. And my job as coach is to adapt my style, my structure, my support that suits them rather than the other way around. Same in leadership. When you're managing a team of people, the same thing applies. So strategic leadership, number 3, strategic leadership. So we've got the mission, vision, culture sorted out. Most people are aware of that. We've got ourselves sorted out, our timescales all sorted out. One of the missing ingredients, however, is what I call strategic leadership. This is a brave new world territory for many leaders now. So why do we need strategic leadership? Well, if I'm working in an organization, and I worked in companies, my career for sort of 20 years before we started our own businesses, the thing I was looking for was stability, safety, security, and a safe place to grow and develop my career. I wanted to work with an organization that looked after me, but also I trusted my leadership team, my managers, my directors, my owners, to grow the business such that I could, have a fabulous career with them. And I was very fortunate with a couple of the companies I first started to work with. One was Royal Ordnance back in the old days, playing with rockets and guns. And the second one was a privately owned logistics packaging company. Both are fabulous places to do my apprenticeship in business and management. But I looked for my leaders to have that ability to let me know where we're going next year. Are we growing? What is your business strategy? What is as a leader, what's your business strategy? Are you going to grow through franchising? Are you going to go through acquisition? Or is it going to be organic? Are you going to go international? Richard and I were speaking earlier on, and Richard's got absolute clarity. Richard Canton's on here. Absolute clarity. What we did this year, what we're doing next year. We've got a new town opening up in the UK next year. Strategic leadership, we're growing, we're developing, we want new things happening. Now, from a team point of view, if I'm part of that team, that's great. I can see a future here now. I can see a future of not just continuity, but of development and growth and brightness of future. So you've got to have a strategic leadership plan that includes growth and development and security. If you want to hang on to good people, you've got to give them good career. You've got to give them good stability and opportunity to go for. And so your strategic leadership is absolutely critical. That's from a growth point of view. But to keep good people, you've got to give them a brightness of future. That's a key one from leadership. Now, a couple of other things that have come through that have developed now really since sort of COVID happened mid-March last year, affected everybody, all the clients we've been working with, absolutely the same things applied. And what happened overnight, and there's some organizations in Luxembourg, it doesn't matter who they are. I think a couple of people on the call might know what I'm referring to. Up to the end of 2019, people are asking for more flexibility. Could we do a bit of home working? Could we do a bit of remote working, all this sort of thing? And it was always the answer was no, you can't. It doesn't work because security, technology, compliance, and all this sort of thing. You can't work from home. You've got to be in the office working 90 hours a week. Middle of March came around, and within 24 hours, every organization where remote working didn't work 20 minutes before, it was working the day after. And people worked from home, as we all did. And now, of course, we're beginning to go back to our offices now, and rightly so. But flexibility has crept into the conversation now. Now, if you want to bring in good people to stay with you and add and contribute and be good with your clients, good with the customers, and good with the team, likely now they're going to say, well, actually, who am I going to go and work for? Is it a company where I clock in at 8 o'clock and clock out at 6 o'clock and that's it every day in the office? Or is it going to be an organization that trusts me to be more flexible, to maybe work from home, maybe work from Starbucks or whatever's appropriate and applicable? Is flexibility going to be one of the things that is a great thing from a leadership perspective to build into the values, rules of the game for the organization? I think it is. I think it's been imposed on us if we're not very careful. I understand why people should go back to the office from a culture, spirit, team, communication perspective. Absolutely. There's little argument against that. But does it have to be 5 days a week? Could it be, I'm guessing, could it be 3 days a week in the office and 2 at home? Could it be the other way around? Whatever. But some degree of flexibility is a good leadership perspective because you'll attract people to you. The labor market is tough out there. Good people are working. Good people are already working in these organizations. Good people can choose to work where they want. They just can. To make the business more attractive for good people, we've got to be the best leaders and not only have tactical leadership, but strategic leadership around the working conditions and trajectory of the business. There's a book recommendation here for you by Andrew Barnes called The 4-Day Week. I don't know if you may have come across this book. It's fabulous. There's a website there, the4dayweek.com. And what Andrew did, I can call him Andrew because we're connected on LinkedIn now. And he's going back a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago now. He runs an organization called Perpetual Guardian, and they're like an insurance type company. And he said to his board, he said, look, I'm going to ask my team if they'd like to work 4 days a week instead of 5. I'm going to pay them for 5 days a week, but they've only got to work 4. That's it. They can have a day off during the week. And of course, the board see you went, you're nuts, you're insane, you're crazy. That's going to be ridiculous. It's going to literally wipe out our productivity, customer service, all this sort of thing. And he said, no, we're going to engineer it properly. So we're going to go to the team and say to them, look, because people have flexible lives now. They have children. We've all got children at some point. They've got kids. They've got flexibility. They've got lifestyles they need to be more flexible for. Collecting the kids from school or going to the school play or whatever it is, elderly parents, whatever the lifestyle is, flexibility is key. And what he said to the team is, look, you work 4 days a week. That might be, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, or a couple of half days off, or whatever it's going to be. You only work 4 days a week. I pay you for 5, equivalent. Pay doesn't change, but I want the same output. I want the same increased productivity, same output in the 4 days a week as you did in the 5 days a week. If you can engineer that, then away we go. And he started this as a project. And of course, everybody believed, well, of course, that won't work. That's ridiculous. You can pay people they're busy at 5 days a week. Anybody you speak to, I guarantee, in any organization, pretty much, is going to say, you say to them, are you busy? They're going to go, yeah, we're off my feet, absolutely busy, rammed. We can't get any time, can't get weekends off. And you say to that person, do the same work in 4 days a week, and they're going to their head will explode. It can't be done because they are busy, busy, busy. But busy is a habit. Busy is a habit that people learn from their managers. Because if you're busy as a leader, as a manager, then guess what your team are going to be? If you're the first in, last out, nobody's going to leave before you. I guarantee it. You've got to teach them how to do this. What he did, they did this. And there's a little document here. You can see there's Helen Delaney, senior lecturer. If you go onto that website, the4dayweek.com, this lecturer, this PhD, she did a qualitative research analysis on the whole project. And you can see in detail what they did, how they did it, and what the results were. So it's not just an idea cooked up in the lunch break. It was tested, it was measured and monitored, and it absolutely worked. And you can check it out. Now, what they did was, in the 4 days that people are working, they did more in 4 days a week than they were doing in 5. Sickness reduced, retention went up, attracting new people to the organization. Pretty straightforward, because that was the only organization at the time that was working 4-day week flexibly, agreed with other people. But you could do that, and then you could sort of go and have the weekend off. Now, I'm not recommending or suggesting that you should go and introduce a 4-day week to your organization. It's a mindset thing. It may be that a 4-day week is a good thing to do. It's creeping into Europe now. There's some case studies being done, but I recommend the book. I recommend the website. Have a look at it. From a leadership perspective, some good tips and ideas there that you can use maybe to build this flexibility and this 21st century approach, because there's an expectation out there now that we're going to be more innovative, more creative, and more engaged with our teams. And we've got to be, because otherwise they'll go and work somewhere else. And if they're working for us and they're not engaged and happy, we're back to the working dead and the zombification again. So this is why it's so important. But I recommend it. Andrew Barnes, 4-day week. Connect with him on LinkedIn. There's all sorts of videos and things like that around to go and see what he's up to. It's a fabulous read. A bit academic on the book, actually, but check it out on YouTube anyway. Have a look at it. See what you think. So next one, another book recommendation, but this is a really key one, an interesting one, is a book called Reinventing Organizations by a Belgian author called Frederic Laloux. Luckily for me, the book is written in English, thank goodness. And I've used this book with a number of clients. When I say use, they've read it, we've gone through it, we've picked the bones out of it. Now, what it fundamentally does is challenge our assumptions around leadership and management. And what they do very well is is two things, in my opinion. They give case studies and examples of organizations that have adopted some of their techniques or these techniques and the actual benefits and tangible outputs they've had from it. And then they give you a framework around which you can monitor and judge your own organization. Now, when I mention these things to people, I get one of two answers, or a number, but these are the two main answers. I say, for example, maybe people can work from home, maybe you can have a 4-day week, maybe you can look at reinventing organizations and adapt the way that your organizational structure is designed and determined. And when I run through them in a second or two, you'll see what I mean. And the regular thing is, oh, that's great. Yeah, great. Good for them. That might be okay in New Zealand. It might be okay in Canada. It might be okay in California or Germany or wherever it is. Wherever they're not, it's okay for them, but that won't work in my organization. My company is special. My company is unique. My company is different because we do something unique, different, and special. These ideas won't work. Yeah, well, guess what? They might, or a flavor of them might. If we don't do something like this, there's a real challenge that we're going to become obsolete. We're going to become redundant as organizations if we're not very careful. The best talent won't stay with and won't be attracted to, and talent moves where the opportunities go. So what Reinventing Organization talks about, it's a very quick run through for you, but it talks about red organizations based on power and fear and chaos. Gangs are classics for this. The rules are all sort of made up. There's a leader who shouts at people and hiring a retribution, power, fear, chaos, gang style culture. Now, I know, we probably all know, no names mentioned, there are some organizations that run this way, where obviously you're not going to get motivated people. They're all scared to death. So red is to be avoided. Red is to be avoided. Then we have amber, and this is close I can get to amber on my color scheme, so I've got to go for yellow. Amber, stability and control are the key drivers here. Things like government departments. Now, there's a place for amber because you want the government departments to be stable and compliant and controlled. Absolutely, you do. That's a good thing for those sort of organizations, but maybe we're not in a government department. Then there's the orange type organizations where competition and profit is the key. And this is back from the 1990s, really, 1990s, early 2000s, maybe. The corporates, everybody's on KPIs or OKRs or equity and shares and bonuses and commissions, and all good. But the focus was competition within the organization, competition between organizations, and the primary focus, profit, short-term profit. Now, that worked to a degree, but those days have now gone because people are now realizing that short-term doesn't work. We've got to take a longer-term view now on what we're doing, how we're operating. So if our organizations are running as the old corporations or corporates used to, then you've got to watch out a little bit. What Reinventing Organizations then starts to specify is that we have green organizations. These are client focus and values are important. The entrepreneurs. Think of organizations like Zappos over in the US, over in Las Vegas. When we lived over there, we would go and visit Zappos, and they were brilliant. A mail order company selling shoes all over the world. Started from a guy's garage by Tony Hsieh in his garage in Vegas. In 6 years, he sold it to Amazon, 1.2 billion for cash. And there's a video on, you can sell lots of videos for Zappos. High client focus, customer service focus, value driven, absolutely value driven. And these are the new age entrepreneurs we're coming through. This is a great stage to get to, because for me, the companies we went to visit over in the Cotswolds in the UK, I don't know which ones they were, but some of these shops and restaurants and businesses, no client values, no energy, no passion, no customer service. They're really probably down to sort of maybe stability and control at best. You don't want to go to a restaurant run by the government, I guarantee it. We want to have client customer service and focus. So green is a good objective. Above green, then we have teal, which is the sort of highest level, if you like. And these are purpose-driven organizations where they're self-managed. They don't have hierarchies. They don't have bosses. People arrange their own working patterns. They set their own pay rates as well. One of the ladies on it, Sam, I know you're on here now, from the UK, done a fabulous deal with one of her new starters. The contract employment, I'm going to paraphrase now, Sam, so forgive me. Contract employment basically says, we're going to pay you this much for the month, and do what you've got to do. Don't worry about the hours, don't worry about this, don't worry about that. We want the output. Do what you've got to do to get on with it. It's absolutely fine. We're not going to monitor, not going to measure you. If you want to go on holiday, do what you like. took the total control away from the manager and the lead, said, we trust you. We're going to measure you on the outputs, not the inputs. And that's a key determinant factor with the new way for leadership, is to manage people on their outputs, not their inputs. It's not an hourly thing. You know, how many hours you've done this week? Did you get in at 8 o'clock or finish at 6 o'clock? Genuinely, between us, who cares? Who cares how many hours people work, providing the quality, performance, profit, service, whatever the mission, vision, values, rules of the game are. If somebody's doing that and they can knock off early on a Friday or choose to have a Wednesday off or whatever it is, who cares? And that's something. This is this new way of thinking. So Teal is purpose and self-managed, and there's the innovators. Now, I'm not suggesting you all go, everybody goes away tomorrow and goes, right, guys, contract for employment done, do what you like, you know, it's like a kibbutz. I'm not recommending that, but are things in here that maybe we can learn and use and introduce that will give a competitive advantage because we have people who love working with you. They're great customer service. They value the organization. They stay. They tell nice things about you. It elevates up, and that's when we get 4 times the growth and 21 times the profit, 21% more profitability as well. So I recommend the book. There's lots of videos online for it. If you drop me a note, you want the slides, there's an organization called Morning Star tomato packing processing company in California, and there's a video. I'll send you the link to the video if you drop me a note, and it's brilliant. They explain how they do things. There's no bosses. They spend what they like. They set their own holidays, set their own pay rates, and all of us will go, that's insane. Are you nuts? You can't just let people set their own holidays and pay rates. Yeah, because we've been educated by the industrial age mentality, by the boomers of this world and maybe the Generation X's, that leadership is about control. Leadership's about inputs, and it's not. Leadership is about outputs. It's about clouds versus clocks. It's about empathy and EQ. It's about trust, and it's about freedom. And that's the highest level to look at from a Teal perspective. So I recommend the book. This is a whole workshop on this separately almost. Maybe I'll do one just there for everybody. But I reckon have a look at, there'll be styles and flavors out of this. Some things you can use, some won't be applicable, absolutely. But I recommend it. Have a look and see what you think. So those are the 3 pillars of leadership. Number 1, self-leadership. Us, you, how do you look after yourself, your routines, your level of stress will be reflected by the levels of stress in your team. If they get the team to do 4 days a week, guess what you've got to be able to do? The same thing applies. It's a leadership principle. Number 2, tactical, mission, vision, rules of the game. How do you operate the business? How do you hold people accountable to it? How do things run within the organization? And thirdly, strategic leadership. Where's the business going? What's your growth plans? How are you going to tactically and strategically manage, attract, and take your business to the next level? Horrible phrase, but how are you going to be able to grow and develop such that you've got this continuity and growth, stability for the team, and your shareholders and your stakeholders love you as well, and yet you engage with the great people delivering great customer service. So 3 pillars in my experience of leadership: self, tactical, and strategic. There's some ideas that you can take away. I've got a couple of minutes, so any questions, please, any questions, you're welcome to type them in, or you're welcome to unmute and have a chat. Any questions? Everybody feeling brave, type it in, or unmute and quickly ask. Sandrine, I can see you yawning there, don't do that. Any questions? Any questions? I'm very unkind. If not, it's absolutely fine. If you'd like a copy of the slides and a couple of the videos I mentioned and the data, where the data came from, just drop me a note and I'll send it over to you. Okay.
I think I've got a question.
Perfect.
In terms of Teal or organisations, which I absolutely passionately believe is the here and now, not the future, it's now. How prolific is Teal becoming around the business world?
Not at all yet, not at all. In fact, it's creeping in at the margins. Innovators are doing it. Innovators are doing it at the very early stages. A lot of people are scared of it, and it's not applicable for every organization either, but it's very early stages. But it is beginning, as the 4-day week is also creeping in now, as flexibility has been imposed on people. The principles of Teal can be selected, and you can see this in terms of, you know, the flexibility and this type of thing, the relaxation of some of the rules. It's coming, but I'd wonder if it's coming fast enough. What is clear, I think, those organizations that recognize they can make a positive statement and get competitive advantage in the market by attracting, retaining, and energizing great people, Teal is great, because that's what people want. They want that freedom, flexibility, and independence. So I think it'll come.
We have got business influencers that are using this, people who are well known. So Netflix,
Absolutely,
as riddled with teal. There's the online company that gave all its employees a holiday. I can't remember what they're called.
Yeah,
you know, it was a couple of months ago in the news. So it exists, and it's existing on in high-profile businesses.
absolutely.
The business world doesn't know how to transition into this, and it needs to come from new startups.
It doesn't. I think that the business world, when people see these stories of the Netflix or the Zappos and this sort of thing, they look at it, and unfortunately, their initial response is, that won't work in my business.
Yeah.
And it's a real shame, because a bit of it might. It's just this, it's change, you know, it's change management is the key thing. How do we change? People don't like change, and managers and leaders don't like change either sometimes, because it threatens their position and ego as leaders and managers. So we've got to overcome that. But it is coming. Absolutely is coming. It's coming.
Thanks.
Excellent. Great question. Great question. Derek, hi, welcome back. Okay, yeah, you absolutely. I'll send the slides in the video, of course I will. Okay, so thank you for participating. I'm conscious of time. I want to finish so on time for you guys as well. Great to see you all. I hope it was helpful. Any questions, welcome to email me. Here's my email address on the slide here. If you'd like to have a Zoom coffee with me and just talk about business and 2022 and things in general, drop me a note. I'm not going to try and sell you anything, but it is nice to speak to people. Anybody wants to ping a note over to me, book an appointment, let's have a coffee and a chat, talk about business and leadership in 2022. Happy to do that. Be great to hear from you. In the meantime, I'll leave that on there for a second or two. It's David Holland at resultsrulesok.com. Easy to find on LinkedIn. Just type in David Holland MBA, you'll find me, and drop me a note. But finally, again, thank you for participating. Great to see you all on the call. Great questions. I know some people have some technical issues and that sort of thing. I know who's been on the conversation, which is great. So thank you. Have a great afternoon. I'll stop the recording, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Just knock the microphone over. That's really good. I'm going to pause record. It was going so well. Do you notice it was going so well until I tipped the microphone over? So